Hey guys, hey, Montel here, and thanks so much for tuning in to this edition of Let's Be Blunt with Montel. And I got to tell you, the next guest that I have on the show today, I've wanted to have since almost day one. We've done 100 podcasts, and I'm getting them now on podcast 103, and I wanted to have them on podcast number 2. But what is that whole thing, that old saying? Good things come to those who wait. So good things came to those who wait. And I've been waiting, and I got him. So thank you so much for our guest today for being here. He's an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, an innovator, and a cannabis thought leader. He's been involved in this industry since 1983, and he has overseen the cultivation of more than over 1 million plants and is responsible for 53 innovations in the world of cannabis cultivation. In 1999, he founded Advanced Nutrients, which today generates more than $150 million in annual sales in 107 countries. BigMike Straumietis, thanks so much for being here and being a part of Let's Be Blunt with Montel, sir.
It is great being here. It took a little bit to get us together, but I'm really glad we're here today.
I am too, man. I got to tell you something. You have been you have resurfaced in my brain. I'm going to tell you 1 million times since back in 1999, because I honestly, I came to the table with cannabis literally after my diagnosis with MS to become a daily user. But before that, I was, I dabbled a little bit when I was, doing my show. I was kind of a recreational guy, barely doing it maybe once, twice a week.
Yeah.
And then I shifted over when I got my diagnosis with MS. And I honestly wanted to reach out to you back in 2001, but was afraid because back then we didn't have the same landscape that we have today.
It was the dark ages. Yeah. We're coming out of the dark ages, I should say. Yeah. Absolutely. By the way, I've been wanting to hook up with you for a while, like, meet you and stuff. So, next time we'll have to be face to face.
Absolutely. So we're going to have to, as soon as some of this silliness stops and comes to an end. A lot of people may not even be familiar with you and aware of you, and I want to make sure that they get a big dose of Mike today.
Okay.
Let's start back up a little bit. Let's talk about this from the beginning, man. I mean, when did you become a cannabis enthusiast and really an entrepreneur? You were an entrepreneur long before anybody was thinking about this.
Yeah. Wow. I guess to become a cannabis enthusiast started when I was 12 years old. My dad had 3 joints rolled up in his drawer, and I watched him there. You know how kids go in the drawers, and I saw them there, and I watched them for about a month or so, and nothing was moving. So I decided to take one and see what this was all about. And I liked it. It made me smile, and I felt good. And I can remember I was 12 years old getting on that bus and, going to school. People were like, "Why are you so happy?" I said, "I don't know, just them." And that's my first taste of it. And then after that, I had some friends at a lawn care company called Turf Pro. It's like a ChemLawn True Green type of thing way back when they initially started. And I had these 2 salesmen working for me, and they kept saying, you know a lot about plants and turf and all this stuff. And we have a business. We think we can make a lot of money together. And they wouldn't tell me what it was. They just kept teasing me. And then one day they took me to their home, and they opened the door in the basement, and there was these probably about 4 or 5 lights hanging, kind of scraggly lights, and some plants there. And they go, "Hey, this is what we're doing." I said, "What is this?" And they go, "This is growing hydroponic, and you can grow cannabis this way." And I said, "Okay, tell me more about it." They did. They explained it. I said, "Okay, I'm in. What do you need me to do?" The first thing they said, "Well, do you know how to take something called clones or cuttings?" I go, "I have no idea." And there was so little information in 1983. And so I found this thing called the floating broth method, where you take a piece of styrofoam and you put the stem through, and before that you roll it in some hormones. And I got it to work, and they thought I was this massive genius. So I got them to root, and we were partners for a while. And we started out with a dozen lights, 500 square feet inside a warehouse, and as they say, the rest is history. Just kept
but you look back, 1983. I got to tell you, back in 1983, I was literally, I had just graduated from the Defense License Institute in Monterey, California.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And I was getting ready to go to sea on summer. Matter of fact, 1983, that's when I went. I was on a destroyer that ended up landing me on Grenada during a Grenada invasion.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I went after Grenada. I ended up going on submarines. So I was active duty military. I wasn't thinking about cannabis at all.
No way. Yeah.
And honestly, I had been like you, instead of 12, I think I was maybe 14 years old. I just started in a band, and I remember, all the guys in my band were over age 25 and older. I was playing in nightclubs when I was 14 years old, and I
Oh, wow.
remember one night I went out on a break, and they were all in the van, and I'm like, "What y'all doing?" I knocked on the door. They said, "No, you can't come in here." I was like, "Well, what y'all doing?" And I remember when they rolled out the window, this big cloud of smoke came out, and I was like, I smelled what it was. I was like, "That's really weird," but I noticed like maybe I took 10 steps to go sit back on the back porch because I played in a band. I'll tell you, this is a really crazy time. I played in a band. No, man, this is 1973, 1972, 73. And see now, 71. And I was too young to be in the club when I wasn't playing. So they made me go outside, sit out back, so they didn't want to get busted having a juvenile in the nightclub.
Sure.
And so I remember I took a walk from the van to where I had been sitting. But when they opened up that window, I went, "What y'all doing?"
Yeah.
And I took such a big whiff that I remember sitting out back of that club going, "Dang, what is going on with me, man?" I caught a contact real quick. You know what I mean? And I was like, I wonder if I had a little bit more of that, if I feel better. So the next night that the band got it, we had another gig. I went to the guitar player who was the guy leading the pack. And I said, "Man, I want to have a little bit of that stuff that you guys had." He said, "Well, if you do it, I'm not going to say anything. I'll never tell your father that I gave it to you. You better not ever tell him that I did." I said, "No, I never will." And from that point forth, throughout the rest of my high school years before I went in the military, I pretty much was an avid consumer myself. So I remember those days. Um, but now this is not just go 10 years later, 1983, when you started, man, this was illegal as illegal could be. I mean, they were
Oh,
running
it
their
absolutely was. Yeah.
trying their best to put everybody and their mother in jail. Especially, I
Yeah.
remember dragging people off in gurneys out of their homes in Northern California. As people that were laying on hospital beds, dragging them to the police department. How did you avoid, getting busted in this gray black area?
Well, I did my homework. I was one of these guys. I went and I took electronic counter surveillance. I had guys, believe it or not, from like the FBI, the DEA, RCMP were teaching courses in Washington D.C. And I got into these courses and I learned all about how they do what they do from the guys who are doing it. And so I was able to set up, figured out frequencies and scanners and all kinds of electronic gear that would, radio frequency counters and stuff. And I found the frequencies that they were listening to, and one had rolling encryption, and I figured out how to kind of break rolling encryption, so I was able to listen to them. And then I had cell phone intercept equipment as well, and so I was able to. This is before the digital age. I was able to hear what they were saying and where they're going and where they're talking. So I always knew where they were at all times. I even put them under surveillance because I want to see who they were and what they looked like, what kind of vehicles they drove. I got all their license plates, numbers of vehicles, and all that stuff. I always knew my area very, very well. I had superior knowledge of terrain, and I just, I'd spend 2 to 3 hours a day just listening to what they were saying. Had the recorders going, and I stayed safe that way.
Yeah, it's crazy now. What you don't know is that by my job in the military, I was a special duty intelligence officer, a cryptologic officer.
There you go.
So
Wow.
that's all I did was listen to conversations and
Yeah.
things and try my best to
Yeah.
interpret them and that kind of stuff. But it's
Yeah.
crazy that we have so many things that are kind of similar in that background. But that's like 83 to, there weren't no cell phones then. So cell phones started out at about what, 87, 88. You had the car phones and those things. And then, so we still didn't have any legalization anywhere.
Yeah.
So were you just growing and selling in the black market?
Yeah, I was growing, selling in the black market. Didn't like the nutrients. There's really no nutrients for cannabis. There was no nutrients for cannabis out there at the time, and people were using all these different kind of products. And so I said, "What are you guys using?" They gave it to me, and I kind of started playing around with the macros, the secondary and micronutrients, and figuring some stuff out, seeing what the plant responded to. And got I got some good results, but it wasn't until I moved to Canada in 1996. I picked up a little heat, you could say, from growing, and I thought, better get out of Illinois. I went to California. I grew for 1 year, got some money saved up. I got $37,500 I saved up. Took 25,000 with me. Give my brother 12,500. Said, hold this just in case something happens. I got to come back, and I headed up to Canada. And in Canada, it became they were talking about federally legalizing it, and so a couple of years later they federally legalized that. And when they did, I said, this is a great time now well, I was already mixing different nutrients and finding, doing different things and handing them to my friends, grower friends. They liked it. They said, you should put this product out in the marketplace. And I said, okay, I did. And I realized I wanted answers. I wanted to find the truth, and the truth is in science. And so I said, how can I get real science? How can I do this? So I went to UBC University. They go, oh, we have an arm called BC Research. And there was some scientists there. They took me in the back room. They go, hey, look at this. We have tissue cultures. They were doing tissue cultures way back then out of UBC, kind of like, in the back room. And they said, we would love to do this project, but we have to be able to intake. And the only way that we can intake is we know that BCIT, British Columbia Institute of Technology, has a license to intake it. I said, let's see if we can connect the two and work this thing out. And they were able to. And so with cancer patients, we were able to put grows into different people's homes so they could get their medicine, and we could also do research. I took samples from stems, stalks, leaves, and buds from many different strains every single week of veg and every single week of the flowering process, and saw exactly what that plant can take. And then I said, okay, now where all the scientists, the minds are in the ag world for plant research. I found that group is about 150 to 200 of these top scientists from all around the world. When you name the university, their top guys were there, including the big ag companies. And I just started talking to them. What are you guys working on? What I found out, most scientists, they got some project on the side. So what are you working on? What do you got? What do you have? They go, oh, I have this, I have that. I said, oh, why don't you send me some? And I did that. Send me some of this, send me some of that. And I tried a lot of experiments on seeing what would work and what wouldn't work, and found some goodies that did work very, very well. Was able to optimize that plant and bring it to its true genetic potential.
That's incredible. Now, again, we
But science, yeah.
keep crossing paths, my friend, because again, 1996, 97, I literally back then had just started kind of going in and out of Canada myself, 97, 98.
Oh, wow.
And then, I wasn't consuming much, but then 99 rolls around, I get diagnosed with MS. Then after that, 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, I literally went to BC almost every year because for me,
Wow.
I did better in the cold with my illness.
Wow.
I got hot, it exacerbated my illness. So I would go to BC and go snowboarding. And
Yeah.
then up in BC, I literally got turned on to the VIC, the Vancouver Island Compassionate.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And I back then I can't remember the guy's name. Philippe was a guy who
Yeah,
was
Felipe. Yeah. Felipe.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
Lucas or something. Felipe Lucas or something like that. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
he literally turned me on, got me my very first volcano.
Those are. Yeah.
So I got my very first volcano through Felipe, and literally never looked back. And so, I mean, it's really funny how we've got so many
Did you ever go talk to? Did you ever go talk to Mark Emery? Did you ever go downtown in Vancouver and talk to him?
I think did he not have a place that you could literally go and consume at? I didn't
Yeah.
get a chance to talk to him, but I talked to some members of his staff and literally was in his facility.
Yeah. 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 I
So
went
that's
in quite often in the beginning.
that's so crazy, man. So, you start doing good up in Canada. Then when did you decide to come back to the United States?
Well, it wasn't by choice. So I'm going to get to the story. So I grew up, I always wanted to have a 100 lighter. And so I thought, okay, where can I mitigate my risk? Where can I go in the world? It was either Amsterdam or it's Canada. And I started talking to Mark Emery on the phone. He goes, no, it's a free for all up here. You ought to come up here and for the amounts that you want to grow, what you talk about doing, you're not going to do much time. If you get caught, you might do 6 months, a year or something like this, and probably nothing. He said, actually, those can be probation. So I went down there. My dream was to have a 100 lighter. And when I, got to that goal, there's other people going, hey, set me up, set me up. The next thing I know, I had 1,496 lights going. My biggest place was a 500 lighter, had a couple 300 lighters going. It was a lot of fun. And then, of course, the police, they're paying attention, and I caught their attention, and some things happened, and they literally came to my house and took me, literally like this kidnapping. They took me. I said, "Hey, you're supposed to take me to the police," and all this stuff. They go, "No, no, 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 no." They literally drove to the border, and the the border patrol guys are talking to RCMP. They stopped, they talked, da, 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 da. And so I'm in the back seat going, "You can't do this. This is due process. You got to take me to the judge." They actually, then they left. They stopped at the border, and it was kind of like a Thelma and Louise moment. They looked at each other. The one guy goes, "Should we do this?" The other guy says, "No, we have to." And they were literally stopped at the border, and they drove over the border, and that's the story. And that's how I got over the border. By the way, I'm glad they did it, because when they did that, I was able to focus on advanced nutrients 100%, and it was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me, was them actually taking me over the border, because it changed my whole life.
And brought you back to the United States. So then you
Yeah,
started.
yeah.
Where did you go to there?
Oh,
Stay in,
I went to Washington State for about 6 7 months, and I moved down to La Quinta, California. Yeah, and then
mhm.
I was here, and then I just kept just driving the business, and figuring it out, and flying back and forth to Bulgaria, because I had a license. I was able to get a license from the country of Bulgaria to study cannabis. At the time, there was only three. This was the third license ever given out. GW Pharmaceutical had one in the UK, and Tikkun Ulam had one in Israel, and then we had one. And so for the, I was able to do massive amounts of research there. We were allowed to keep 1 kilo of either flour or concentrate for research purposes at one time for what we grew. And we had cameras on an incinerator, and they would watch us throw it in the incinerator and burn it after the experiment.
That's absolutely insane. I spent some time in Bulgaria myself also. Bulgaria leads the world in a couple of things, but
Mhm.
it's incredible. So now, then you started watching all of the legal changes taking place in the United States, right?
Oh, well, I can remember my brother and I were trimming weed in the US, and I said to him, I go, "John, one day this is all going to be legal." And he goes, "When do you think?" I go, "We'll see it in our lifetime." And literally, it was probably about 17, 20 years later, it became a reality where we are today. So it's quite a ride. I had a feeling when I saw Canada federally had medical marijuana, I knew that was the going to be the crack in the door, so it cracked the door open, so to speak. And it wasn't. I figured it's going to take some. Oh, and then about a year before that, they were talking about Prop 215 in California, introducing that. And so I said, okay, the writing's on the wall. This is going to be legal at some point. And very early on, I just was very certain that it was going to become legal in some form or matter within 20 years from when I was doing it.
Yeah. But now we see that it has become legal, but there still seems to be so many issues. It's almost like going back in the dark ages again, especially in California. And I'm not knocking. They did move the paradigm forward, but it was that old thing: take 2 steps forward and 6 steps backwards. So they move the paradigm forward 2 steps, and then every municipality decides to make their own stupid draconian laws and rules and regulations, and add more taxes and add more packaging and add more ignorance and drive it back underground again, so that now it's more robust in the black market than it is in the legal market.
Yeah. So are you exactly right? We have a more sophisticated black market now than we ever had, because they know how to do extraction, they know how to do edibles, they know how to make vape pens, they can do all these different delivery systems that were before was just smoking a joint. So and now it's a totally different game. And because you're right, they taxed it so much that the black market is thriving. Look, the black market. There's a lot of questionable product that is out there. There are some really conscientious growers in the black market that are doing it right, that just choose not to come out of the dark and into the light. But there's a huge black market. And I've talked up at folks in Sacramento, and I said, during COVID, you ought to just take all the taxes away out of cannabis in the state of California, and that would help extinguish the black market and move it more into a more accessible to people, because you can go and get it for half the price in the black market. And that, by the way, some of the best growers and best breeders are still in the black market today. They haven't come out.
And what did the legislators say?
They're going to think about
Huh?
it. Well, they're going to think about it. And Steve DeAngelo's told them exactly the same thing. So who knows? We'll see what they do.
They're still thinking about it. But
Yeah.
that's like, right
But
now.
at least we brought it to the table, and we'll see what they do.
But I mean, now, but that also brings me to the conversation about, we just had an election, and, we took a look at the election on November 3rd, and everybody thinks that, Biden was the big winner, but really cannabis was the big winner on
Huge,
November 3rd.
huge
Huge.
one.
When you get Mississippi to
Yeah.
pass medical marijuana by
Oh,
70%,
yeah. Yeah. That was
you
a
know,
big
come
one.
on, South Dakota by
Yeah.
70%.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I mean, the nation needs to wake up and recognize that we, the people, are speaking out right now, saying that this is something that really is a waste of time. What do you think? First of all, what do you think about the incoming administration? I've had my views on them, both Vice President Biden and Kamala Harris. And Vice President Biden has recently, like 6 months ago, had the nerve to have the words come out of his mouth, still gateway drug. And I was like, somebody should smack him upside the backside of his head. And then, Kamala Harris, depends on which way the wind's blowing, is what you get out of her. When we know that when she was the attorney general, you still had a significant amount of arrests going on, especially of brown and black people in the state of California, where you have legal cannabis. More and more brown and black people got arrested
Yeah.
after it
Um,
was legalized.
my feeling is this. I just I don't care who gets in office, whether Trump stayed in office or Biden gets in. We're going to go in the worst economic downturn that I've seen in my entire lifetime. Uh, the economy is just this COVID has taken a hit on the economy. It's messed with people's heads, their psychology. They're consuming more cannabis, but they're going to need to tax it because they're looking for revenue sources. And 30 to 40% of all small to medium businesses are now gone. So they are going to need money, and they're looking at taxing it. If you look at I think it's the MORE Act. They said 5% tax. They want a federal tax they want to put on cannabis. My belief is in 2022 to 2023, it's going to be federally legal, just by pure economics.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we probably will have one or two states that'll just be diehard holdouts. And
Utah, maybe.
uh
Utah, I don't know.
Now, Utah has been getting closer and closer. I think, well, there's more and more people smoking pot in Utah than they know. So, I think that Utah will probably pass, but you never know.
You know, Oklahoma. I thought Oklahoma would be the 49th or 50th state to take it on. I was really surprised when Oklahoma made the move they did because they had some of the most draconian cannabis laws in America.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been crazy, my friend. Well, we now are looking at, again, we have 39 states and the District of Columbia that have now legalized
Yeah.
in some way, shape, or form, whether it be medical or recreational or adult use.
Yeah.
New Jersey was huge. It's going to push New York to change a lot of what they're
Oh,
thinking.
they are. New York and Texas are both talking about putting it through the legislature and pushing it through now because the competition from the neighboring states.
And come on, all the revenue they're going to lose for people just going across the bridges. I mean, if people just drive across the bridge, buy
Right.
something, come home. That's revenue that the state of New York is losing. And right now, when New York is literally facing this mass exodus of citizens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's going to be one of the driving forces. I know that with your advanced nutrients, there's more and more need for that in all of these states.
Yeah, our business has gone off the hook. It's like unbelievable. We're at about 103 million, and we just jumped to we're at 160, probably 163 right now. And it looks like the current demand globally for our product is around 275 to 300 million. And so I had to go in and I had to get new equipment, bigger equipment. I would probably put close to $5 million I've spent in probably about $1 million a month since COVID has hit in one way or another, upgrading everything in our company and getting to be able to produce more. We're looking in Vegas now for a facility to put up for our powder line and organic lines, liquid organic line, true organics.
It is insane that this is probably the only recession-proof industry in America today.
Yeah, it is. I also believe that because so many people are using it, we have a whole new customer base that's been exposed to it, and quite frankly, people are going to, the CB1 receptors in their brain start getting habituated to Delta 9. They like it. And so we're going to have a lot more folks using cannabis going forward for many different reasons. And we're not even talking about hemp and the textile and industrial uses of cannabis. Once that kicks in full throttle here, it's going to help a lot of the farmers out. Right now, the infrastructure is not there for harvesting and processing.
Well, do you think that, I just read an article recently about the fact that China right now
Yeah.
could, within months, be the largest provider of hemp in the world.
So
It's going to impact what's going on here.
yeah. So in China, I had someone come up to me and said, "You wouldn't believe what they're doing there for hemp." I go, "What are they doing?" They go, "They have these 1 acre buildings all under glass, and they have big 10,000 gallon reservoirs in there, and they're growing hemp indoors." I go, "Okay, how many of those buildings do they have?" He goes, "As far as your eye can see." He goes, "There's like 1,000 of these buildings that each have an acre, indoors growing, and it must be for that CBD production, what you're talking about." And yeah, they're China is trying to set themselves up as the CBD source for the world. I don't know. I don't know if I could trust China 100%. I don't know, someone like Germany or France or Spain or something like this, countries like this, United States. I would trust you know our countries and over in Europe, but China is just I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's really strange to me because I think they have been known to cut corners when it comes
Oh
to
yeah,
everything.
oh
So,
yeah,
I wouldn't trust their product either. But I'm working and talking to a company out of Colombia right now that is working very, very diligent. It's a U.S. company. It's down in Colombia that has a huge amount of acreage, and they are in the process of helping to transition off of cocaine and all those other terrible things and transitioning over to hemp and to cannabis because they see the handwriting on the wall. The United States has still got these weird draconian laws that doesn't allow for export, and there are a lot of countries out here that are demanding product. And so, I'm having some conversations right now in that space to see if I can move into Colombia to help out, and that's going to impact the U.S. But do you think it'll be that negatively, or 'cause you won't be able to import it here? Any THC products, you'll be able to import CBD products, and we're going to see CBD products and hemp products grow exponentially over the next couple of years.
yes, we are. Yeah, yeah. I believe that American farmers will answer the call and they'll put up the right kind of laws to protect the American farmers. We've been pretty good at doing that. We'll see what happens. And really the problem with hemp is all the uncertainty right now. It's just this shifting sand, and there's so much just uncertainty because the FDA hasn't come out with their stance, the USDA hasn't come out with their stance. They're all kind of holding back. And we don't know if it's can we produce hemp for just textile industrial use? CBD, we can do that. Well, what about CBG or CBN or THCV? Because you can program a hemp plant to put out whatever you want with gene editing these days. You can really manipulate that plant to do a certain sector of cannabinoids.
Absolutely. What seems so crazy to me is that we have allowed, a lot of people don't know this, we've allowed the importation of hemp continuously. I
Yeah,
mean, there have been hemp seed protein products in, health food stores for the last 20 years. There's been hemp seed breads in stores for the last 20 years. There's been hemp based clothing in stores.
yeah.
And now all of a sudden, we can't agree to allow hemp based products to be eaten here in the United States. It seems crazy to me, man.
It's changing. It's changing very, very quickly.
Are you doing a lot of lobbying at the national level?
Not at the national level, at the state level. I'm getting now to do more at the national level. I'm putting together a coalition of cannabis companies here just for the sole purpose of lobbying. Because if you don't lobby, we're not going to get what we want. It's just not going
Yeah,
to happen.
I had a really good conversation just a few minutes ago with Eugenio Garcia, who's the
Yeah,
founder of, Eugenio, he's the
yeah,
founder of Cannabis Now magazine, Hemp magazine.
yeah.
And we were talking about one of the things that I think we both agreed on, and I feel very strongly about this, is I think one of the biggest issues facing cannabis and hemp today is the education of the consumer. Contrary to what everybody thinks, we see all these, huge conferences across the country that are all B2B conferences.
Yeah.
Yet we haven't spent as much time in the last 5 years B2C in it,
Yeah.
educating the consumer, trying to get the consumer to recognize that they've been fed a bill of bullshit for the last 100 years in the criminalization of this plant. Making sure people understand that, you know, America has a history of hemp. All of our forefathers grew hemp. The Revolutionary Army was clothed in hemp. Every tent, every sail, every rope that was ever manufactured in the United States prior to 1937 was made from hemp fiber. Hemp right now is being used over, carbon as a filament for batteries. There are two publicly traded companies right now that have realized that, hemp cellulose material, when squeezed together, is a better conductor of electricity than graphite that we've been using. I mean, do you know about that?
No, I'm just like, this is the first I've heard of it. So it's very, very interesting.
Hey, graphite, we can use it for hempcrete. We can use
Yeah.
it in clothing. And again, most people don't even know that prior to 1937, the majority of people in America ate a hemp-based porridge at least once or twice a week because we knew that hemp was one of the highest protein-laden seeds on the planet. We know this stuff. It's not like this is something new, Mike. This is stuff that's been there,
Yeah.
yet we fail to tell the masses. So the masses just then, like lemmings, follow the bullshit.
Yeah, we live in a bubble, a cannabis bubble, where we talk to people, and where we know the facts, we know everything about it. We've been doing this for years, and we kind of lose sight of the fact that the public doesn't, like you said, they've been misled for the last 50 to 100 years, and it's our job to educate. In fact, that's one of the things that I do on my Instagram is I do some entertaining, of course, you have to, but it's mostly informational about cannabis to let people understand and take a journey and make a decision and try it without all of the prejudice that I've been put into their brains.
But I think until we start making it a part of the national dialogue and a conversation. I mean, I know, Jim Belushi, I had Jim on my podcast, and Jim's doing a really great job, I think, in breaking down some barriers for people who would never consider cannabis or anything like that are now looking at his brand new show. And I think that's what we need. We don't need stoner shows. We need shows that are educated, shows that are giving people good information. And baby boomers will be brought to the table a lot quicker this way.
Yeah, yeah. I was talking to Jim last week, and you're exactly right. That's a great show. I'm so glad to see he's really like the first cannabis show that's crossed over into the mainstream that's educating folks about the plant, and I'm like so proud that he's out there doing that and representing our community really, really well.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about really the industry. I mean, first of all, how badly has the fires um, in Oregon and California impacted the industry on the West Coast?
Yeah, it was just a couple of years ago they got hit by fires. Now they got hit again, and this was even worse than before. It's impacted greatly. It's going to cause the price to rise. There's a lot of fields that were just literally burned down, but more there's a lot of bud that got ash on it, that has smoke damage, and they can make distillate out of it and stuff like that, remediate some of that out of there. But for the most part, it's devastated. Probably about 30 to 40% of the crop was lost this year.
So we're looking at price gouging to make up for it, right?
Well, it'd be interesting to see what happened. Maybe they overplanted this year, and things will equalize. It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. And
And then
I know we have a charity called Humanity Heroes, and through Humanity Heroes, well, as a company, we feel that if you're a successful company, you should give back directly to the community in which you get your money from, and society as a whole. So when we saw what happened up there, we helped them out 2 years ago. So this year we came back even bigger and helped them. We gave $250,000 cash, and $250,000 worth of nutrients are going out to growers in Southern Oregon and Northern California.
that's great, man. Look, let me do something. I got to take a little break, pay some bill, and then come right back. We've been talking today to Mike, and I tell you, Mike, I saw your Straumietis.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. It's a mouthful. That's Big
Mike,
Mike. That's
that's it. Big
yeah,
Mike. That's why you go by Big Mike, right?
exactly.
He's one of the leading thought provokers and thought leaders in the cannabis industry in America and in the world. He's an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, an innovator. And Mike's got so much more to talk about. I'm going to take a little break, pay some bills. We'll be back right after this. Well, hey guys, again, thanks so much for tuning in to this edition of Let's Be Blunt with Montel. And today's guest is Mr. Mike Straumietis. Big Mike, man. Big Mike in the house. I finally got him. Thank you so much, Mike, for accepting the invitation to be a part of Let's Be Blunt today, my friend.
I'm glad I'm here.
Absolutely. I'm glad you are here because, there's so much more, though, I think that we all have to do, all of us that have been involved in this industry, trying to move it forward. And, I think COVID, though, it has impacted America in such a negative way,
Mhm.
it seems to have sparked this industry in a positive way. I mean, we're starting to see, I think in a way, we're almost kind of several of the growers and several of the dispensary owners have been claiming that this has been kind of almost recession proof because I think people have started making a good decision for themselves. They decided that since they're stuck at home, rather than sitting down and sucking down a bottle of swill every night, that they
Sure.
realize that they feel a lot better when and if they actually are using cannabis. And again, with the CBD craze, there are a lot more people going in that direction. We are going to be looking at COVID for at least another year and a half
Yeah.
at the level that we're looking at it now. I mean, I know that's terrible for me to say, and a lot of people would smack me and say, "No, Montel, we got to buy. We have vaccines coming. Well, the vaccines that are coming aren't going to be available for the majority of the people in this country for at least a year. So it'll be a year from now before we actually see some sort of deployment of vaccine that has an impact." So, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think we'll still see the rise in cannabis sales that we've seen?
Yeah. Since COVID hit, the literally my nutrient sales, fertilizer sales are going up continually. Every month is a new record month, a new record month. People are very stressed, psychologically beaten down. We're social creatures, and you're putting us basically in cages, our own homes. That gets old after a while. We want to go out, we want to see our friends, we want to talk, and it's very, very difficult. A lot of people, this is very psychologically traumatic to them. You look at I stopped watching the news because it just makes you depressed. And people watch that stuff and they want to medicate. Either they're going to go to alcohol, which is a bad choice compared to cannabis. And people are getting educated to go, let me give cannabis a try. More and more people are using cannabis than ever before. So in a way, for the cannabis community, that's a good thing because I'm not a proponent of alcohol. Pretty much stopped drinking a long time ago.
Yeah, I stopped drinking almost 20 years ago myself. Literally, I barely had, and I might have a tiny sip of something on New Year's Eve just to toast people. But
Mhm.
if I'm at an event and there people are toasting with liquor, throw it right over the shoulder.
Yeah.
I've not used it at all. I've been primarily a cannabis user for now close to 20 years. I think you nailed it, the stay at home thing. But I think one of the things that, again, let's go back to this education thing that I was talking about
Sure.
for the break.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that there's been recent articles written out about peer-reviewed studied articles that were written about the fact that cannabis and cannabinoids and flavonoids from the cannabis plant seem to have greater medicinal content and efficacy than some of the things that we've had in the marketplace.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially for PTSD. There was a study came out of Washington State University that said it reduces PTSD up to 61% while you're medicated. Then, of course, the effects kind of come back afterwards. So there's, by the way, this is a lot of what's going on is causing people PTSD. I mean, they're very, very stressed. It's trauma for the average person. What COVID has done to our society is very, very traumatic.
So now you've been primarily in the nutrient space, but you're about to put out your own blends, are you not?
What?
Of
Oh, yeah, of cannabis. Yeah, we're putting that first quarter of 2021. We take multiple strains, we blend them together so we get a really rich cannabinoid and terpenoid profiles, and then on top of that, we use a high terpene extract to really give it a nice, flavor and aroma.
that's great. And that's going to be called Big Mike blends, right?
BigMike blends, absolutely, and they're outcome based. So that's the difference. So we do ones that we have morning motivator for the when you wake up. We got creative kingdom if you want to work, and say you're a graphic artist, you don't get too high, but it stokes creativity. We got mellow me when you come home. Instead of having a drink, you can have a pre roll. And or a gummy will be, or a vape pen, and then we've got dank dreams for going to sleep, and we got sensual sensations for a better actually I made it for the guys that give to the girls for have a good time. And then I've got Hell's Bells, which is just the ultimate party. It's infused with THCA, so the THC levels through the roof. And then we got rapid relief for CBD product.
And do you have any plans to, like, again, I want to keep everyone in this industry working towards educating the masses, but do you have any plans? And I guess when you put your product out, are you going to put out like a tutorial to tell people what it's all about and explain to them
Yeah.
reason?
Oh yeah. Absolutely. You bet. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's also extremely important, so that
Mhm.
people can at least follow,
Well,
the reason why you formulated the way you did.
right. Well, see, growers grow strains. Patients want outcomes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely correct. That's part of the reason why, I put out my own branded product, put it out a couple of years back. I was working with Cureleaf or Cura, and put out a product that was literally a combination of not only THC, but CBD in the same pre roll. So I
Mhm.
have some formulations and also 5% terpenes in every single one of my
Right.
vapors. And all. So you get a formulation that pretty much similar to what you've just done. I called it
Absolutely. Yeah.
a 1090, which was 10% THC and 90% CBD, then
Okay.
a 25-75, a
Sure.
50-50, a 75-25,
Yeah.
that kind of
You're building a recombinant product, and the future is going to be recombinant products, because also when you talk about be able to for counterfeiting and all this what's going on, you want to be able to identify your product. They're going to be separating out all the different cannabinoids, flavonoids, and terpenoids, and then reassembling them, and that product will have an exact fingerprint that you'll be able to go, whether it's here or in Spain or wherever. You go, yes, that's my product, or not my product.
And you'll also, though, for the consumer and for the patient, be able to identify a product that may elicit the same response each time. Though we know for
Yep.
a fact that based on what you eat, based on your body weight, based on
Mhm.
how you're metabolizing at that particular time,
That's correct.
differs the reaction that you get. But you can almost pretty much understand if I'm reading something that has the same profile and I'm consuming that same profile,
Mhm.
I should elicit a response within 10 or 20% of what I've gotten each time.
Exactly, exactly. You're right on the money. And I did a little research on your products and stuff, and yeah, you're doing it very similar. So they're
So,
recombinant products.
I'm telling you, man, I think that's really what is the future of this entire industry.
Yeah.
We just got to get people to understand that, and get some of the bad players out of the marketplace or out of it. And I think that's, what is that old saying? The wheat will rise above the chaff. It's starting to happen.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's next, Big Mike? You got Big Mike blends coming out. What's next after that? You got any other product?
Well, we've got a TV show, Next Marijuana Millionaire. We're shopping. We've got some interest in some networks. They'll be interesting to see. We shot that about a year and a half ago. We had it at one network, and half the advertisers said the problem is the advertisers. It's not actually the networks and as such. And half the advertisers said yes, they would advertise it, and other ones said no, they wouldn't. And it's kind of like it's a Survivor meets Shark Tank.
Right. It's kind of crazy though that we still are at this place in time when, again, the people just spoke. 70%
Yeah.
of the people in this country just said it's okay.
Big business, pharma.
And
I've talked to a few mid-level pharma guys, and they basically said we got caught with our pants down. I believe they're just personally just trying to buy time to play catch up.
absolutely, so that they can buy all of the small players out of the market.
Yeah, well,
But then, see, I think that's one of those things. I don't know. What do you views this? Because, see, I firmly believe that that's the reason why this industry took a hit about 2 years ago,
mhm,
because people realized that the big boys got in only because they saw dollar signs.
mhm,
These were the same big boys who for 30 years said they didn't think cannabis worked.
mhm.
They didn't think cannabis was a medical agent. Now all of a sudden I'm supposed to trust you just because you started a company and are providing product? No, I'm not going to trust you if you were so ignorant that you didn't believe in it. You really don't believe in it anymore now. All you believe in is the money. Why would I buy a product from you?
Yeah. They don't respect the culture. I gave a talk probably 3, 4 years ago at an art view about to investors about respecting the culture, and they just don't. They look at it. They attack it like it's a normal space. And this is why you see so much churn and burn. People are losing millions and billions of dollars in there because they're going in there and they're treating it like a normal space. This is highly regulated on shifting sand right now. And they don't look, the biggest consumers of cannabis are the core that were using it before. And they're not catering to that core like they should. That's the biggest single mistake that these money guys are making. They're not respecting or understanding the true nature of our culture.
I agree with you because I think, you see, again, I'm maybe we're on the same page. I don't know, but I believe where the industry has missed the boat is the fact that everybody jumped out here trying their best to find the highest THC product they could to attract kids to it. But now some kids don't want to use their parents' Geritol. We forgot the fact that it's baby boomers who have made this industry available to the masses. They are the legislators who are passing the legislative bills. They are the business guys who are funding the innovation. It's baby boomers who remember that during the 70s, early 70s, and mid 70s, that they were smoking a little bit in high school and they still have a good life. They didn't go to jail. They
Yeah,
didn't mess up their life. They didn't go on to do heroin. They didn't go on to do cocaine. They just stuck with marijuana for the last 40 years.
yeah,
It's almost as if we've just completely ignored this entire demographic.
yeah. And the products that they're pumping out are mediocre at best.
Right.
And look, the consumers who are medicating with that, they're used to a quality product. And these big licensed producers, a lot of them are just pumping out the weed, they're treating it like it's a weed. They I don't know if you're aware of this, but they irradiate weed to get rid of the mycotoxins and stuff. They're literally nuking weed, and this is a viable procedure. They think they don't understand they're destroying the terpenoid profiles and some of the cannabinoid profiles by doing that, and they just don't understand.
But because they don't care.
That's correct.
And I think what's going to hopefully will happen, and I hate to say it this way, but once we legalize and it turns into a big growth industry, then the micro brewers will come back out.
Yeah,
And those are the ones that'll be the most successful in sales, will be the micro brewers, which will be the original people who were doing this day one.
yeah, yeah. Well, just like the craft breweries, absolutely. There always will be that need for high quality product and ultra premium product. It will be there, and these smaller growers are the ones who will be delivering that product to the marketplace. I agree.
Let's talk a little bit about getting the legislators to understand that probably one of the best things that they could do to this industry is to figure out a way to safe bank, to safely utilize
Oh,
and use.
yeah.
I don't know if are you familiar with Kind Financial?
No, no, I'm not.
Well, you need to do that, Mike. I'm telling you, Big Mike guy. I've been talking to this guy and working with them for close to 9 years now. They finally got a paradigm passed and through. They've created a safe space for banking, and they've created a safe space for credit card use,
Mhm.
non-cash,
What's it
uh,
called? Kind? What'd you call it again?
KIND Financial.
Okay, I'm writing that down right now as we
But
speak.
I
Okay.
turned Stevie D on to them, and
Mhm.
also turned a company on out of Colorado that are about to utilize them in their services. And this will enable any customer to go to a Kind financially backed dispensary
Mhm.
cashlessly. And I mean, right now, come on, the fact that we are living in a time when we got COVID, people touching money, there's no reason for people to touch money when it comes to touching the cannabis. So I
Sure.
should be able to buy this from my credit card and have you deliver me a bag and leave me alone, right?
And the very fact that if the Safe Banking Act doesn't go through, they're actually perpetuating the black market and unsafe product in the marketplace. And also, not to talk about there's stories they don't make a lot of press, but I've heard stories where people are getting robbed and tied up, and their money's being taken, and they know that they're a dispensary owner, and they're literally holding them for ransom because they know it's a cash business, and they need to get banking. That's one of the biggest things in 280E as well. Be able to take normal deductions and treat this like a normal business. I know Nancy Pelosi, I guess, said she puts in one of the bills she's trying to put in the fact for a banking law to make it
And
more
I
easy.
just, well, hopefully, let's just hope we get through the next 2 months. We figure out who's going to be the president, even though we know who is elected.
Yeah,
And then, but let's get through. We get the people in office, and then I think it's going
yeah,
to be a really heavy, lobbying effort there. Because we definitely have to get some education in the president and vice president.
I agree. I agree.
Absolutely, my friend. Well, look, you always have a home here, sir.
Okay,
Anytime, I'd love to have you back. And you got to keep me up on what you're into and what you're doing, and maybe
I
we can
will.
cross pollinate some of the ideas that I've got going, and see if we work together a little bit.
And I want to meet you face to face.
Absolutely. We got to get that done, my friend. Of course,
We will.
Jim Belushi asked me, he said, well, once this stuff settles down, maybe I'll come out for, his show or something, that we
Yeah.
can do a couple episodes together. I'd love to come out. And when I get out, definitely got to kind of meet you, out to dinner and sit down and chat, my friend.
Would love to do that. Thank you. It's great being on your show, Montel.
My brother, thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to thank all of you for tuning in to Let's Be Blunt today, where our guest has been really one of the most innovative thought leaders in the industry, Mr. Mike
Straumietis. That's okay. Big Mike.
Big Mike, thank you, sir, for being a part of the show. Make sure you tune into the next Let's Be Blunt with Montel. Thanks for joining me on Let's Be Blunt with Montel. Please make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell to be notified when new episodes post each week. We'd love to hear your feedback also, so please send us your comments.